Do you ever feel like you're running at an unrelenting and accelerating pace of modern life with no finish line? A race that has run many of us ragged. Philosophy of slow living says, it seems that it is no longer deemed sufficient to run in order to keep up. Now our sugar-saturated, highly caffeinated energy drinks promise us wings with which to fly. And this too became inefficient. In the beginning, man fed himself. He then sought shelter and protection. Homes, villages, and towns were founded. Finally, the time of the machines came with their increasingly hectic, frenetic rhythms of life. Today, man dreams of liberation from the many anxieties that his own progress has created. We have been promised that speed and efficiency will bring us happiness, but for many of us, it has just led to burnout. In this video, we'll look at how ancient wisdom can help us find peace in a world that never stops. We'll explore an alternative, the art of slowing down. Clearly, there are some areas of life where speed is of the essence. For example, receiving the results of an important medical test or undergoing a life-saving operation. But most of the time, we appear to be extending an unnatural and unsustainable sense of urgency into almost all areas of our lives. Slowness says, living too intensely in a constant state of emergency and hyperactiveness is detrimental to our well-being. In a digital age dominated by an increasingly tyrannical trinity of speed, efficiency, and productivity, the concept of slow living challenges the idea of instant gratification that modern culture sells us every day. This feeling of being trapped on a treadmill of our own making isn't new. Over a century ago, the writer E.M. Forster eerily envisaged it in his short dystopian science story, The Machine Stops, where he glimpsed a future of living death, a stagnating, subterranean, dwelling humanity, entirely dependent on an all-powerful global machine for all their needs. In this world, humanity was portrayed as being utterly alienated and cut off from the natural world with its rhythms and patterns of seasons and alternating periods of light and darkness. Everything was artificially replaced and regulated by the machine. The inhabitants of this world want for nothing, and as a result, they become nothing. Sadly, this sounds uncomfortably familiar. Today, our desire for comfort and convenience, for pleasure and the avoidance of unpleasure, has spawned the very lifestyles and industries that now threaten to disrupt and destroy our ecosystems and virtually end life as we know it. We continuously and compulsively consume to excess with the fantasy that we might reach some sublime state of satiation, an idealized state of inertia where we too no longer need or desire anything at all. However, desire is stubbornly insatiable, ever evolving and adapting into more nuanced forms. Philosopher Erich Fromm says, "We have forgotten how to simply be, and instead lost in ultimately meaningless and unsatisfying modes of having." In the digital world, we find ourselves compulsively consuming while actively parading our consumption for online audiences for reciprocal likes and validation. In his book, The Art of Being, Fromm prescribes the cultivation of stillness as an antidote to the prevailing restlessness, meaninglessness, and monotony of modern life. The psychologist Carl Jung says, having more isn't the answer. He asserted that the only authentic way to escape our various compulsions and addictions is to have a personal, transformative, religious experience, to truly escape the hedonic treadmill and transcend our speeding mindset requires a form of awakening. And this brings us to a philosophy that has centered on this very idea for over 25,000 years. Philosophy of slow living says, we came a long way from the spinning wheels of mechanized industry, the speeding wheels of automobiles, to the slower wooden wheels of cotton spinning charkas, and even to the more yogic, mystical inner wheels of ascending chakras. In Buddhist teachings, the wheel is a prominent and reoccurring motif. When you enter a Buddhist temple, you will see the iconic and colorful Bhavacakra, the wheel of life, or more literally, the wheel of becoming. Traditional philosophy of Samsara refers this wheel to the endless cycles of birth and death marked by suffering, impermanence, and a mistaken sense of self. Philosophy of Buddhism says, suffering, or dukkha, isn't just about pain. Dukkha is a broad term which includes both physical and psychological distress. It's that subtle, yet pervasive, sense of satisfactoriness that hums beneath the surface of our daily life. According to the Buddhist teachings, so much of our suffering is brought about due to our insistence that the world be other than it truly is. We habitually seek comfort in an imaginary sense of permanence, resisting any form of change. Yet our experience teaches us that everything inevitably changes. Our world, which at first glance seems so solid and abiding, actually is in a constant state of flux. The Zen master, Dogen Zenji, said, most people are not able to acquire the way without deeply understanding that a day consists of more than 6 billion moments. Our age is defined by distractions. It is not unusual to find ourselves watching a film while also browsing online and texting a friend. We now have distractions to distract us from our distractions. By practicing the original Buddhist meditative traditions of Samatha and Vipassana, we can slow down to live more fully. In Buddhism, Samatha refers to the process of calming and stilling the mind into a tranquil state, and Vipassana, which translates to enhanced seeing, refers to this settled mind's penetrating insight into the nature of reality. In the Buddhist tradition, they are equivalent to the process of stopping in order to clearly observe the contents of one's mind. In Western contexts, stopping should not refer to a literal stopping of thoughts, but rather the stopping of distractions. The standard advice provided by modern teachers of mindfulness emphasizes that practitioners should not be trying to suppress their thoughts or silence their minds. Think of it like this: a beaker of water clouded with sediment. If you leave it untouched, the sediment naturally settles, and the water becomes clear. Likewise, if you can learn to stop stirring and disturbing your mind with distractions, a natural clarity returns. This stopping or stilling element is beautifully expressed in the Tibetan Dzogchen teachings that says, water, when undisturbed, is clear. Mind, when uncontrived, is at ease. When the surface of pond is calm, you begin to see your own face clearly reflected, and eventually, what lies beneath. In meditation, you're learning to perceive your thoughts and feelings with clarity, so you can respond creatively rather than reacting habitually. And this, looking and seeing, clearly becomes a tangible way of describing the Buddhist process of awakening. In the Buddha's Noble Eightfold Path, the very first attainment is samadhi, realizing the right view. To see the world as it truly is, we must first learn how to slow down. Realizing the right view isn't about achieving some mystical state. It begins with a simple, conscious choice: the choice to pause, to put down the phone, to take a single, deep breath. The journey to a slower life doesn't start with a grand gesture. It starts with the quiet rebellion of stillness. And in that stillness, we can finally begin to see clearly. That's all for today's video. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more empowering content. Thanks for watching.